Man, oh man, oh man, oh man. Does that intro not get me fired up every single time we come on here? And we have an incredible show for you here tonight. It is a basketball extravaganza on the Georgia-Alabama Sports Live show. We got Elite Eight in Alabama. We're going to talk about the teams that are still alive, Central Red Devils and Lady Red Devils. And then for Georgia in the GIAA and the GHSA, for the 16 schools that we cover, we got quite a few Muskogee County and GIAA District 5 teams that are going to be vying for state championship runs. It's Thrift, Barringer, and Richard Holdridge. Big Rich, what is up, man? It's finally here. We're in playoff mode for basketball.
Thrift, it felt like yesterday was Selection Sunday. I actually think, I'm sure our next guest would probably agree with me that I think that needs to be an event. We need to have some reveal for it. I got fired up when I saw the brackets, and I'm excited about our next guest.
Yeah, exactly, and I am too. This guy is phenomenal. He comes on the Sports Visions Morning Show and with me and DJ, which you can listen to every weekday morning from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Sports Visions 92.1 FM. We are presented by Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC, Buffalo Rock, Pepsi, Gordy Eye Care, and Kinetic Credit Union. And man, I want to, before we have him on, because I don't want to keep him too long, because this guy, he is Mr. High school basketball in the state of Georgia, and everybody tunes into his podcast. It was bracketology today. He was giving you all the news and notes, and he was gracious enough, because he's the cool guy he is, to be able to come on our show. That is Cal Sandy of Sandy Speil. Don't bring him on just yet, Richard, because I did want to say real quickly, thank you to Muskogee County Citywide AD, Jeff Battles, Kendall Mills, Pepsi. It was an incredible region tournament we were able to cover for Muskogee County and Sumter County. I called it Muskogee County Region Tournament because 7 of the 8 teams are in Muskogee County, and then you got little Sumter County making that hour drive. Yeah. But we had a ton of fun being able to broadcast literally every game in that region tournament and eventually call the championship for Hardaway Lady Hawks and the Carver Tigers, and phenomenal. And then on Friday, that was on Saturday, on Friday to call the GIAA championship as Pacelli, Lady Vikings and Vikings both win another region championship. We called a lot of basketball. I think it was close to 20 games in the last 3 or 4 days. We stayed really busy. My voice is about to give out. Thankfully, yesterday I took the day off. I was like, I can't do a show yesterday, Rich. I was like, my voice was literally going to fall off. But thank you again to those who orchestrated the event. They gave us, A-level position to be able to broadcast that game. They rolled out the red carpet for us, and we appreciate everyone in Muskogee County allowing us to do that. And it was a lot of fun, Richard, last weekend to call those championship games.
Yeah, it truly was. And along with everything else that we were doing, we were also doing the middle school championships. I did a couple of baseball games, but we fit it in because the city really is just proud of these 2 teams that really won the region championships. And to piggyback off that, the Pacelli Vikings and Lady Vikings winning the GIAA. I mean, we've got some fantastic teams. I'm excited about playoffs. The GIAA and GHSA playoffs first round is actually starting the same day.
Yep.
They're kind of on the same schedule.
Yep.
And we have a preview of the bracket. I mean, this is exciting. We don't have all the brackets. We just have the brackets that we're covering for the Columbus schools. I know that our next guest is really, he's got all the knowledge of high school basketball in the state of Georgia from 6A all the way down to the private schools. But I know right now, I'm just curious to see what's his opinion on these Columbus schools.
Exactly right. And without further ado, by the way, we'll have on Jack Patterson a little bit later on. Cal's huge name, but we can't make the mention WRBL's own Jack Patterson. But let's go ahead and bring him on. He is of Sandy Speil. His name is Cal Sandy, good friend of Sports Visions, and now coming on Georgia-Alabama Sports Live for the first time. Cal, thank you so much. It has been a crazy last couple of days for you, hasn't it?
Oh boy, you took the words right out of my mouth. Yeah, it's been quite busy, but been doing this for a long time now. Know it's that time of the year. That's where you gotta buckle up, hunker down. You're gonna be staring at a screen for a long time every single day. But it's no better time of the year than region, and now of course state playoff basketball in the state of Georgia. Thankful for you guys having me on tonight.
All right, Kyle, before we get into talking about the 2A classification, because that's the majority of the schools that we cover are in, and we'll get into a little 4A because Harris County and Northside are also part of our coverage area here. But I did want to talk about, and go ahead and get it off the bat, where can everybody listen to your podcast? What have you had for content-wise here the last couple of days to get everyone ready for high school basketball playoffs in the state of Georgia?
Yeah, so I literally just finished these podcasts maybe an hour ago and then jumped on with you guys. SandySpeil.com, SandySSpiel.com. Of course, on Twitter, probably the easiest way of finding me, Kyle Sandy 355. Literally fresh, hot off the presses. We did about over 3 hours, I think, for both boys and for girls. So the girls podcast came out a little bit earlier today. Boys just came out moments ago. And with that, I tried to touch on, preview every single game across the state of Georgia for the girls and for the boys. And that's a lot of games, over 120, whatever it is, games. Do the best I can to shine some light on every single player, every single program.
I will definitely be listening to that as soon as we get off of this show. But Kyle, let's go ahead and get into 2A, and let's go ahead and start with the boys. The Carver Tigers won a region championship here this past weekend. In your rankings, they've been number one pretty much the entire year. I really think it's theirs to lose. But for those of our viewing audience, talk about some of the teams outside of Carver after you talk about them that could give them a run for their money this year in the playoffs.
Yeah, Carver, as you mentioned, they've been running number one pretty much all year long. They've been great. Tony Montgomery, we already know about him going to Troy. He's been fantastic. Tobias Tolbert's been a great defensive anchor for this team. And just looking at the scores, it just feels like every other night they're putting up 100 points or winning by 60, 70 points. They've been really, really good. And they clinched the number one overall seed in this PSR rankings that they're using with the power ranking system this year. So that goes to show you not only do they match my eye test, they also match the computer's eye test as far as the algorithm goes. So they've been really, really good. I'm just looking at the bracket here right now as far as teams that can compete with them. It feels like they have a pretty good draw on that left top corner quadrant of their state playoff bracket. It wouldn't be too crazy to see Carver run into Spencer in the Elite Eight. I think that's a real possibility, which would be pretty cool for you guys in your area to see that. But as far as teams that can contend with them, Butler's pretty good from the Augusta area. They're down below them. That would be a Final Four matchup. The right side of that bracket, Union County is pretty tough. They don't have a lot of size, but there's some scrappy guards. They play really hard up in Blairsville. South Atlanta is really tough as well. But it does feel like Carver, the path is there. You can see a path to the Final Four and definitely a state title game.
I will say before you go, Richard, we've gotten Spencer Carver 3 times already. Region championship game 2 times in the regular season. And Kyle, if you don't know, that's a pretty hated rivalry. This is one of the most long-standing rivalries we have in our area. So to see that for a Final Four, sign us up for that, and hopefully we get to broadcast it. But go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, Kyle, talking about some of the other schools in Columbus that are in this bracket, Shaw has to go on the road, take on a very tough a very tough Crisp County team down in Cordele. And then we've got Kendrick that's going to be taking on a South Atlanta team. I think that Kendrick's just happy that they got into the playoffs. Talk about what are you looking like? Do you think you could possibly see an upset with the Shaw and Kendrick? And then you also have Spencer that we talked about. They are the number 8 seed, and they are actually, because I think that they're at home. I think that Spencer should have no problem against Therrell. But do you think that Shaw and Kendrick having to go on the road can pull off an upset in the first round?
Possibly Shaw may be a better opportunity with that. I know Shaw, didn't they have a pretty big upset in that
Sumter
region
County
tournament? So
Yep.
yeah, so that's big. Sumter County's pretty tough. I know Sumter doesn't have some fantastic record, but Sumter's played really good teams. So to see that Shaw can beat a team like that, that gives you a lot of confidence heading into the postseason, I would think. Crisp County, though, They do have a player named Zakiria Dwight, 6'6", jumps out of the gym, blocks about 4 or 5 shots a game. He's a terrific all-state type player. So he's going to be tough to contend with for Shaw, but I would think that might be a little bit more doable than Kendrick versus South Atlanta. South Atlanta has Door inside, a 6'8" region player of the year, double guy, very agile. They have another a guard named Bold Dang that's pretty good as well. And Kendrick, they got off to a pretty good start this year, I want to say, and then it kind of got a little bit tougher as the season wore on. But they got some guards that can score the ball, so that'll be good for them. And Spencer, as you mentioned, Spencer probably going to be a favorite in that one. But Therrell coming from Atlanta, they got a post player named MJ McCorder, a really good post player. I want to say he might be like a sophomore. Rebounds, block shots. He could pose some issues inside, but as you mentioned, I do feel like Spencer should feel okay, but they're going to have to play well to beat Therrell.
And we had a debate, Kyle, in this area. Obviously, this happens around the state when they do these rankings and how they go about seeding, especially for 3A and below. You made mention about the PSR and how they go about the seeding. Can you elaborate a little bit more for our viewing audience so they understand? Because they see, and I'm specifically talking about the girls' side, a team like Salem, who's 4-24, made the playoffs, and we had teams here like Columbus High and Shaw who had better records than them but didn't make it. So how do they go about the seeding process? Is it overall rankings, or they go the top 4 seeds from each region? How do they go about doing this from your best recollection?
Yeah, so if everything I've learned is correct, and give me a moment, I might trip on this a little bit, but it's been a learning experience for everybody. If
Right.
you finish in the top 2, they seed those. So like the all the number 1 seeds that win their region, they're seeded 1 through 8 is what it's supposed to be. Now, of course, if there's private schools that get pulled out, it gets a little fuzzy. But if you don't have to deal with that, that's how they seed them. And then they have like the 2 line, the teams that finish as the runner ups, they'll seed the 2 from that would be what your seeds like 9 through
16.
16 or however. Yeah. And then from there, I think also if you finish like top 4 in your region playoffs, I think you are supposed to pretty much automatically clinch. You'll be in there. And then you have your at-large bids outside of that. I think that's correct. That's what I've been hearing. I was surprised when I noticed that Columbus did not make it in there. But the PSR, it's a whole big algorithm with your win percentage, opponents' win percentage, and opponents' win percentage. I've talked to someone that's done an incredible job of going through and pouring through the data, even dating back to last year to prepare for this year. And the findings that they have come out with have sounded like it's not really strength of schedule. It doesn't really play as much. It's kind of better to play a weaker schedule, which kind of stinks for me to
Yeah.
hear that as what the answer might be. I still love teams that go out there and play other teams, but when it comes down to trying to not cheat the system, but kind of play with the system and get your most favorable draw for the postseason, which is really what matters most. It might be a little bit better to go about playing those teams that you feel like you can certainly beat instead of going out and really testing yourself against good competition. But it's a learning process for everybody. This is year 1 of things. There's going to be teams that feel like they got snubbed, even the teams that have gotten into the bracket. I mean, gosh, there's on that what is it, the girls side in Class 2A, you got all those CSRA teams in the Augusta area. You got Thompson, Butler, Josie, Laney. They're all in the same region. 3 of those teams went 1, 2, 3 in the state rankings for a big, vast portion of the season. They're all in the same quadrant alone. So you're knocking out like legit 2 or 3 potential state title contenders just in that portion of the bracket. So it's very interesting to kind of understand everything. There's a lot of like region matchups in the first round, and as we mentioned, Spencer and Carver, but at least that would be in the Elite Eight if that comes to fruition. But it's just something new that everyone has to get used to. There's no perfect pill that's going to make everybody happy, but we'll see how it all plays out.
Yeah, and I think that's a great answer, Kyle. But I will say I'm with you on the fact that you're basically telling teams to play easier schedules. Like I'll bring up a Kendrick. They played a little bit easier schedule than a Columbus High. When it got to region play, Columbus High beat Kendrick twice. But Kendrick made the playoffs because they're 15-10 to end the year. Columbus High is 11-15. So maybe that now when coaches are going about scheduling, they're going to think about that. Let me stack up my wins before I get into tough region play. Let's go to the girls' side now. And we're going to talk about the Hardaway Lady Hawks, who were state runner-up last year, came so close to winning a 4A championship. Now in 2A, you made mention about Thompson, Butler, Josie. Those are some of the teams that you have ahead of Hardaway. Where do you rank them? And do you think Hardaway has every bit of chance to try to win a state championship this year?
I think Hardaway has a great draw to, at the very least, make it back to the Final Four. I really love this draw for them. I think I don't really foresee them having any issues with anybody, maybe running into Columbia in the Elite Eight round, but I feel like Hardaway matches up very well with them, with Rihanna Boynton, how she's able to rebound. Of course, Michaela Johnson, we talk about her. We talk about Akila Shelton, all Adasia Burrell. I think they match up great. I think the season really starts for them in the Elite Eight, and then they move on to the Final Four. But from there, that's the one, I guess, good thing, because all we just mentioned, all those Augusta area schools are going to be beating themselves up in that bottom quadrant. So you would have to just beat one of the teams that survived from the best region in the state in that classification this year. So that might be a Josie or Thompson. If you get past them, you're going to play someone from that top left-hand corner, which it feels like on paper, Murray and Sonoraville, two teams that have already played 3 times this year and have had nail biters. I don't foresee anyone coming out of that top left-hand bracket other than Murray County or Sonoraville. And then the bottom left-hand side of the bracket, that is wide open. Like Carver Columbus hasn't been great this year,
No.
but they have a heck of an opportunity to still make the Final Four, which would just be mind-blowing.
Kyle, we talk about the Hardaway Lady Hawks going to the championship last year as a 4A school. Now they're down into 2A. Do you think that Hardaway by the voters was a little undervalued because of their record? I mean, let's remember, like some of the opponents they played were 7A schools from Georgia, like Carrollton, and they also played Hoover, which is a 7A school in Alabama. But I understand that Josie was the runner-up last year, and the voters are familiar with Josie and they're familiar with Thompson because they were 2A schools last year. But do you think that Hardaway is undervalued because they're coming into a new classification?
I would hope that they're not undervalued, because consider the fact you just said they were in 4A. They dropped down. That's in theory that should be an advantage in the first place if they're dropping down, and they
Right.
have pretty much their entire roster back from a team that had the state championship in their grasp before it just slipped away in the second half. I know I haven't been overlooking Hardaway. They've been floating in that number 5 spot pretty much all season, just because all those Augusta teams. But um, the way the bracket's shaped up for them, I think they have to be very excited, very thrilled. They are going to have a say, and they're going to have a great opportunity to make it to Georgia Southwestern for this Final Four. They are a team to beat, and especially with how everything played out, as I just mentioned, they only play one of the CSRA schools. You'll probably play a North Georgia team in the state championship if everything kind of goes chalk on that side. I think Hardaway has an opportunity to right the wrongs of last year in Macon.
And shout out to Coach Kelly Ellison winning another region championship. That core group you just made mention, Kyle, the 3 seniors of Burrell, Michaela Johnson, and A.K. Shelton, they're the winningest group of seniors in Hardaway Lady Hawks history. They have just done incredible things and made everyone in this area proud. You made mention about the Carver Lady Tigers. They take on Carver of Atlanta, but I'm with you in that bracket. If they were able to get an upset, this is a team that's made 1-2 state championships, been to 4 Final Fours in the last 6 years. Go to Anson Hunley. They may be a little bit down compared to years past, but I think if they all else goes right for them, they can pull off an upset.
Oh, 100%. And they might be an underdog, quote unquote, just by seeding, but I think they have a great opportunity. Carver, Atlanta, in years past, they've been beaten in the first round by teams that I don't, I would not think are better than what Carver is this year, even though it's not like on paper, a state championship winning Carver team, but they're going to
Right.
have an opportunity to make some hay. Carver, Atlanta, uh, has been getting better, but Carver Columbus has that pedigree. They've been good for a long time. People are really starting to step up into their roles, it sounds like, this year after losing a lot this past season. They get past Carver, Atlanta. I know they're going to have to be road warriors for a lot of this postseason run just because they're that 20th seed, but Tattnall County would probably be who they would face in that second round. Tattnall County they haven't really played a ton of tough competition. And Carver, Carver's coming into this at 15-10 overall, but you know how Carver does it. They play a
Right.
lot of really good non-region teams. So if they wanted to play a soft schedule like some of these other teams, yeah, they for sure have 21, 22 wins right now. But it's all about building for the postseason when it matters most. And now you get a fortunate draw with the bracket. The Tigers, they're very scary this time of year.
A few more questions, Kyle. I do got to ask about the Harris County Lady Tigers and the Northside Lady Patriots. They both made it in 4A classification. The Lady Tigers were right outside of your rankings. They've had a great year. Coach Stephanie Ramsey Dunn has made Elite 8 appearances, Final 4, and in a tough region with Stars Mill and Central of Carroll. I thought they did a really good job. Northside getting in. They're young. Don't really expect big things from them, but Harris County, that specifically with them, do you think they have what it takes this year and then the region they're in to maybe make a Final Fourth berth?
They have an opportunity. Harris County is good. Janiah Broom's really good. She scores the ball exceptionally well. She's at about 20 points per game. She's been great this year. I foresee they have to get over that second round hump when they play Cartersville. I'm pretty sure those two teams hooked up last year in the postseason. It was a white knuckle nail biter the entire time. Uh, with home court advantage, I think that's going to be very big for Harris County. I could see them making a trip to the Elite Eight, but if they get to the Elite Eight, you see the number one player in the nation, the defending state champs, Maris, with Kate Harpering, a five-star blue chipper. She just had 48 points or something like that in the region championship game, averages over 30 points, 10 rebounds per game. She is just simply unstoppable at the high school level. That would be a great test, though. All good teams, like you want to play the best of the best and get that opportunity to upset the apple cart. I think Harris County has a great opportunity to make it to at least the Elite Eight round. And if you get that deep, you roll the dice and see what happens.
Well, Kyle, let's take it outside of the Columbus area, obviously, because I follow you and I'm a fan of
Me too.
basketball in the state of Georgia. It looks like on the boys' side in 6A, Grayson is the team to beat. They have been dominant. But is there like a dark horse for the 6A boys? I know that we did happen to see Carver beat Etowah, and Etowah was in your top 10. But is there another team that actually sticks out that could give Grayson a challenge?
It really feels like it's going to come down to Grayson and Wheeler. Those have been the top two teams all season long in that classification. Those two teams actually hooked up this year, and Grayson beat them by, I don't know, 10 or 12 points, something in that vicinity. But Grayson, they're loaded up. They're really good. But the problem is Grayson and Wheeler, if they hooked up in the postseason, that would be in the Final Four. So that means that right side of the bracket, there's opportunities for someone to get there, because I know I've seen it on Twitter today. These coaches are upset that you have McEachern, Norcross, Wheeler all in the same quadrant, let alone that entire left side of the bracket. So there are going to be some really good teams that get eliminated. As far as a dark horse goes, the team that I've kind of been riding this year has been Walton. Walton is tough. They beat Etowah twice out of their 3 matchups. They've been all nail biters, decided by 1 possession. They just beat them in overtime in the region tournament. They played Wheeler close once, then not so much the next 2 matchups. But Walton's good. They have good guard play. Caesar Burrows is a senior guard going to Lehigh. They have a kid named Caden Gilstrap who's going to play baseball and football at Wofford, but is good enough to play basketball there as well. And I think the key piece for them is C.J. Jordan. He's a sophomore, 6'7" inside, plays quarterback on the football team, but he's super skilled. They can play inside and out. They're really good defensively. They get into gaps and they can shoot the 3 on offense. If anybody, maybe them, but it is going to be either Grayson or Wheeler, it feels like, unless there is a momentous upset.
Well, Kyle, again, we appreciate the time. I know it's getting late. You've been awesome, man. And I do want to end on with this. You got your spring showcase coming up, which this is huge, man. I want to talk about the fact as an unsigned senior, and I didn't even sign until I played junior college basketball later on around June or July. There's a lot of kids that want opportunities to play at the next level. They don't get exposed. You don't get an opportunity to do that. Talk about why you started this and when is it coming up and how can people get involved if they want to.
Yes, the Sandy Speil Spring Showcase. That's March 16th at Dawson County High School. It's just a great opportunity, whether you're an unsigned senior or you're still got a couple more years left in high school, just to get your feet wet, to get some exposure right before travel ball season starts. It feels like AAU, travel ball, whatever you want to call it. It starts earlier and earlier each season. So it's really tough to even find a nice spot for it, but it's first, not the very next day, but that Sunday right after the state championships gives it about 7 or 8 days or so. But we break down into teams. We have 80 spots available, 80 for the girls. That goes from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then the boys session is 4 to 8 p.m. 80 spots available. We have skills and drill work as we start the camp. Then we break down into gameplay. We have some photographers there, videographers there if you're interested in trying to get a highlight tape, something of that measure. Each player will receive a player evaluation, which I'll put on my website, which is open to view for the public. It's just an overall good time, and it's good for you to get outside of your comfort zone. You play with kids you don't know. You might be able to even make some new friends. You get coaching from a bunch of new coaches that you've never met before. And for me, I love it because I'm able to draw talent from all over the state, and it's so good. There's so much talent, but so many kids get overlooked. So it's great to be able to get kids from Savannah, from Columbus, from Macon, North Georgia, all in one location, and to have them all mesh together and play together and to just really evaluate. And it's great. We invite a lot of college coaches. We try to get as many as possible. I blast out those emails as much as I can to try and grab at least a few. And it's just been really fun to see the talent that has come through over the first 3 years and to see a lot of these kids go on to play at the next level. It's very gratifying.
Well, it's been gratifying to have you on, man. You've been awesome. It's Kyle Sandy of Sandy Speil. You can follow him on Facebook, on Instagram, and, of course, on his website. Kyle, thank you so much, man, and I hope we can have you on here in the next couple of weeks as we digest what is about to happen in the wonderful world of high school basketball in the state of Georgia.
Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.
Go rest your voice, man. Drink some honey.
Yes, please. Thank you.
All right, that is Kyle Sandy of Sandy Speil. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to go into those brackets with more detail and more. It's the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show. It's Thrift and Rich. We'll be right back after this.
You're watching right now the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show that is presented by Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. Get ready to smile. We'll be right back after this. Georgia Alabama Sports Live wants to say thank you to one of our presenting sponsors, Buffalo Rock, and their partnership with everything that we do. And without business like Buffalo Rock, we wouldn't be able to go cover softball, volleyball games, every type of high school sport you can think of, local college games, and professional. So thank you to those businesses that support us, and specifically Buffalo Rock. And next time you're watching a Georgia Alabama Sports Live broadcast after a nice long day, why not enjoy it with a nice refreshing sorry? The best lemon lime soda around. Thank you to Sorry and Buffalo Rock for our partnership on Georgia Alabama Sports Live.
Right.
Hi, my name is Griff Gordy, and here at Gordy Eye Care, we have been serving the Bi-City community for 17 years. As a former state championship quarterback, I love the fact that I can watch local high school athletics from the comfort of my own home. So it was a no-brainer to support Georgia Alabama Sports Live and what they do for young athletes in our area.
And without business like yourself, Gordy Eye Care, none of our coverage would be possible to be able to cover the 16 different high schools, the local colleges, and professional teams. So we'd like to say thank you to you, Dr. Griff Gordy and Gordy Eye Care, for your support of Georgia Alabama Sports Live. And then you can make an appointment today at Gordy Eye Care with the number 334-291-5125. Keep supporting Gordy Eye Care and keep watching Georgia Alabama Sports Live.
Even though I'm away at college, Kinetic Credit Union is still the best way for me to stay connected here and at home. With the Kinetic mobile app, I have control of my accounts wherever I go. I can easily transfer money between internal and external accounts, get money faster by setting up recurring transfers, and I can find the nearest ATM or branch right from my phone. Plus, I can add my Kinetic cards to my phone's digital wallet and enjoy quick, secure, contactless payments. By the way, Mom, I need some more money.
Kinetic Credit Union, the energy for your dreams.
We're back here, and Richard, I need some more money. Send me some money whenever you get an opportunity. All right,
Sure.
We want to say thank you again to Kyle Sandy of Sandy Speil. Let's go ahead and let's get into it. We're going to have Jack Patterson coming on here in about 10, close to 15 minutes to get in more depth, but let's talk about those brackets. Richard, without further ado, let's throw them up there and let's digest. All right, we got the 2A girls. We'll move on from this side of the bracket. There's no Columbus teams.
Thrift, I do want to say something because this is what got me fired up.
Yeah, Murray County being number 1 should not happen.
No, that's I'm a little fired up on that.
And then Salem too.
How could Salem be a 4-24 team that didn't win a single game in their region tournament, and they were in a terrible region, and they finished 4th. A coach later gave me some clarity. That's how they do it, and I understand they take out the private schools, and that's why they have those at-large bids, and that's why you got a team like Kendrick on the boys' side that finished 6th place that they get in the playoffs, because then they go to the power rankings. But then and only then, once they've pulled all the private schools, they can get from that pool of teams, and sometimes there's not that many teams to choose from. But yeah, that got me fired up that a 4-24 team in Salem got into the playoffs, and Columbus and Shaw didn't.
And great seasons for LaShonda Adams. Every single year, they have gotten better. They have increased their win total every single season. They got 2 players that are going to play at the next level, including Jayla Lockhart. Great season for them. Great season for Shaw and Coach Curtis Crowell and Dusty Marquand. They'll be back again next year. All right, let's continue on, and let's talk about the side of the bracket that everybody cares about, and that is with Hardaway. They got Jackson. I think they're going to smoke them by 30 points. I don't think it's going to be close. They'll be hosting that game. They'll play the winner of Franklin County and Miller Grove. Both those teams are competitive, Richard. I could see – I don't see a slip-up. I'm honestly with Kyle. I don't – Burke County, no. Lakeview, no. Appling, no. Columbia, it's the only team that's even in his top 10 that's in this side of the bracket. I honestly think, as much as it is disrespectful, Richard, that they got to be as a 3 instead of number 1, where they are seated in the side of the bracket they're on, they couldn't have got a better draw, in my opinion. And I think, again, when you got Sealers and Michaela Johnson, Deja Burrell, A.K. Shelton, the player of the year, and the sophomore Rihanna Boynton, they're deep with Julia Johnson, Coach Kelly Elsa's team, the last thing they're going to worry about is overlooking people. But I think they got to like the fact that this is going to be a bracket where I don't feel like they're going to be really tested until they get to the Final Four. That means they won't be banged up. And I hope that this means that we can see a Hardaway cutting down the nets. I really like the bracket that they're in, Richard.
Yeah, and I don't think that it's going to be automatic they play Josie in the Final Four. You got Thompson on that side. You got a Sumter County team that could end up upsetting Thompson in the second round.
Exactly right.
And I think that is a much tougher – but Josie was the 2nd overall team, and they got a tougher bracket than Hardaway, who was the 3rd overall team.
I completely agree with that, man. And so I'm with you. I'm looking at this Miller Grove team, who I think either them or Franklin – if they were to play each other, when they play, and seeing what Hardy would have to play if they were able to take down their team. Miller Grove comes in, they're 13-9, 7-3 in their region this year. They actually finished 3rd, and they're in the same region as Drew Charter and, of course, Columbia. So Miller Grove looks like the team they'll end up facing off against, and I think they're a team they're gonna dominate them. All right, let's continue on the girls' side. The bottom half, Carver Columbus taking on Carver Atlanta. I'll let you start there, Richard. I am with Kyle. I honestly think that it's going to be a dominant performance from Carver Columbus, and I see a big-time upset.
I do too. I see Carver Columbus beating Carver of Atlanta. I think that Tattnall County is going to be a little bit tougher in the second round. I mean, they are 4th overall. But this Carver Columbus team has been improved under Coach Anson Hunley, who's got a championship pedigree, having multiple state championships. Yeah, did lose a lot of seniors, but when you have a player like Caden Cooper, who is just an elite scorer, and you have a player like Trinity Walker, who's a good post player, he's got a team that is just continuing to get better. I see them possibly getting this win. I just think, who knows? They could go on a run, and they could upset Tattnall County, and we might get the Carver Callaway matchup in the Elite Eight we've always dreamed of.
They had played in the same region as Holy Innocents Episcopal, and Holy Innocents beat them 72-27, 86-19. and the 2 times they played them this year. That's how good Holy Innocents is.
Yeah.
Remember, Hardaway beat them last year. Carver Atlanta is 16-12. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know how Carver Columbus did not host over Carver Atlanta, and because Carver Atlanta 3rd in the region, 8-5. Carver Columbus 3rd in the region, 11-3. They're not much different in terms of standings.
No.
How do they determine that Carver Atlanta's to 20? And it's not just like, again, I know we're nitpicking right now, but it's like they're 7 spots ahead of Carver Columbus. I don't understand that, because if they both did the same thing, Carver Columbus played in a little bit tougher region aside for Holy Innocents Episcopal. I think the Carver Columbus region is pretty tough. Then they won over 15 games or 16 games. I don't understand it, and I can see an upset happening. If that does happen, they'll have to go on the road, take on a Tattnall County team that is pretty good, Richard. That would be tougher than, I think, Carver of Atlanta. Tattnall County comes in 19-5. They were 7-1, first in the region with Appling, and actually won the region. So that would be a little bit tougher, but I can still see an upset there as well. All right, let's move forward and wrap it up. Spencer going on the road to take on Thompson. I don't see it. I just don't think they have the size. But this region with Josie and Thompson in it, and then Sumter County, as you made mention, and Butler. Wow. Holy smokes. That's what I'm talking about with Hardaway. They could have been in this bracket and been Josie the number 2 team. I'd be thankful that I was the number 3. Do you see maybe an upset with Spencer before we move on?
I'm not sure. Thompson has been one of the top teams. They've been in the top 5 all year. Spencer would have to play a perfect game. You would have to get Brianna Brownlee is going to have a double-double and big defensive presence. You're going to have to get just an A game from Alexandria Burke. You're going to have to get Nadra Rosser just becoming just a fantastic post player. I do think that Spencer has grown this season, and they've been able to learn from their mistakes. I mean, they have made mistakes this season, but this team is just continuing to improve. They just got to play a perfect game against a very talented Thompson team.
I completely 100% agree with that. All right, let's go to the boys, because we got Jack coming on here in just a little bit. This side of the bracket, if you're Spencer and Shaw, you're like, what did I do to deserve this? I would have rather been in any other bracket but this one. But I will tell you, I do like Shaw's chances against Crisp County. I was actually with Cal when he said that. You ask him who has a better opportunity to make an upset, Kendrick against South Atlanta or Shaw against Crisp County. Well, Shaw's upset over Sumter County this past weekend, and the way they played, I think they can pull off an upset. Now, Chris comes in 21-6. They were 7-1 in the region. They actually finished 2nd in the region, and they lost to Tattnall County in that region championship, 40-31. It will be tough for Shaw, but if they shoot like they did against Sumter County, we were there for that, Richard, I think Shaw could easily pull off this upset. For Spencer, if they play their game, I don't think they'd lose to Terrell. By the way, shout out to Patavius Sorrell, who used to work here in the Columbus area. He has now taken over that Terrell team in Atlanta. But I think Spencer, I think they are set up because they get to host the first 2 games. They are. We really are going to probably get Carver Columbus Spencer in that Elite 8. And if that happens, we're broadcasting on Georgia Alabama Sports Live.
No question.
There's no doubt about it. But for Carver, they are 10 to 15 point favorites over everybody in this classification. Do you see an upset with Shaw? I'm already booking Carver Columbus Spencer. But if Shaw can beat Cripps County, they played Spencer tough this year. Shaw could upset them, and we could see a Shaw team in the Elite 8.
That would be shocking, especially when they lost to Carver.
And then again, I also think this has to do with the fact that Spencer gets DeMarcus Horn back. If he comes back healthy, that will be huge for this Spencer team. It's going to be tough for them without a healthy DeMarcus Horn, even though they play Carver tough. What do you got, Rich?
Yeah, I don't think it's a reflection on Spencer as a team compared to Carver. They are right where they need to be. They were in the top 10 all year. They've been part of Sandy Speil and Kyle Sandy's poll that he has every week. Yeah. It's just that Carver is on another level than all these other 2A schools. So whoever meets up with Carver in the Elite 8, I think they have no problem with Rutland. I think they beat the winner of Burke County, Hart County, which, by the way, if they do play Hart County in the second round, that's the rematch of the Elite Eight game last year that they went on the road to beat Hart County.
Yeah.
And so I do think that Carver Columbus has a very easy path. And I feel bad for Spencer if they end up getting to the Elite Eight. They have to face Carver. But, like they say, it's hard to beat a team twice, let alone 3 times. Carver would have to play Spencer 4 times.
Yeah, exactly. And I will tell you this. What I saw from Coach Quintavious Allen's team on Saturday, I told him that was his best coaching job. And he's done a great job everywhere he's been. So this was no slouch when I said this. I just thought what I saw from his team Saturday to come back in that game, Kerry Griffin, that dog in him, that is a credit to the culture he has established. And this guy knows how to win. He's won region championships. He's been to region championships. He won a state championship back in 2022. He's been to Elite Eights with Brookstone. Coach Allen and his staff have done a fantastic job. And I just want them to be fully healthy with DeMarcus Horn. I really hope he comes back. But I'm predicting Carver Columbus Spencer. That's what everybody wants. That's what I want. It'd be great for the city to have that Elite Eight. And I wonder, they would obviously play it at Carver because Carver's gymnasium is big enough to hold it. But you're talking about standing room only. Holy smokes. And then for a 4th time, it's hard. I don't care how talented. You're right, Richard. But I got Carver coming out of this region. Sandy Speil said, and like I'm saying, this team has been number 1 from start to finish. They are on a mission to finish out, and the only way Carver loses is if they beat themselves because Coach Eric Allen's got a team that is so loaded, so deep, so many playmakers. You try to take Tony Montgomery away, he can bring you Castlin, Woodson, Truesdale, Isaiah Rosegreen. You take out Tobias Tolbert, you bring Rosegreen off the bench. You got Tristan Gibbons also on the backside. They got Aiden Jones, who's a lockdown defender. He's got so many weapons. They are such a good team defensively. They play smart basketball, and they got a showtime player in Tony Montgomery when all else fails to take over a game. Definitely Carver. All right, let's move on. Let's go to Kendrick's side because that's really the only side I care about. Richard, I think everyone in here, I think they can take down South Atlanta. Richard, what is your mindset on them taking down South Atlanta? And I think also Sumter County as a team that could end up making it to the Elite Eight. I think they can upset Tatnall, and I dang sure think they're going to take down Kahula Christian. But Kendrick, the 23 seed, taking on number 10 South Atlanta. What are you seeing in this matchup? Can we see a Cherokee upset taking on a South Atlanta Hornets team that comes in the playoffs right now at 19-8? On the year.
Yeah, you got to remember this Kendrick team started 11-1, and I know that they had an easy schedule, but they still won, including against Carver Atlanta. They've had some pretty good wins. They beat Central Talbotton, who's in the playoffs as well. Kendrick, led by their coach Andre Dye, I'm just so happy for him making the playoffs for the first time since 2019. I think this is huge just for the program itself because Kendrick, as an athletic program, has had a lot of tough times, especially with their sports. But the boys basketball team making the playoffs, they're going to play with a little chip on their shoulder. They're playing with house money. They got into this thing when they finished 6th in the region. I love the depth they have with a Noah Harris, with a Cash Elder, with a Trent Lott. I mean, you've got some ballers, and Coach Andre Dye knows how to coach them. I think they're going to play loose. They're going to play fancy free. And they could knock off South Atlanta for the upset.
I definitely can see that as well. And if they do that, why can't they take down a Laney team? Kendrick could be a team that can make some noise. But the fact they made the playoffs, congratulations, Coach Andre Dye and his team. Congratulations to Shaw. That is Kendrick, Shaw, Spencer, and Carver for the boys. Hardaway, Spencer, and Carver Columbus for the girls. That's 7 teams we have in the playoffs. And that's Hardaway, Spencer, and Carver all hosting. Hardaway girls, Carver, and Spencer boys are all hosting first round and second round playoffs if they were able to win. And for Carver and Hardaway, even to the Elite Eight. So we'll be cheering on those teams. We'll finish out with Harris County, and we'll throw up their bracket as the Harris County Tigers. They're in a region that's got Eastside, who's pretty good. Marist is a team that's one of the favorites, according to Sandy Speil. And then he said Cartersville would even be a tough out if they played them in the second round. They got a tough draw, but with Janiah Broome and Coach Ramsey Dunn's team that is experienced and they've been here before, even in a tough bracket, I think they have what it takes. The way they finished out in this tough region with Starrs Mill, Central Carroll, I've really been impressed with Harris County, and I definitely see at least a second round, and wouldn't be surprised if we saw another Elite Eight appearance from the Carver Lady Tigers.
Yeah, no question about it. I really like Harris County. Just as they won their first of all, they were able to beat a Starrs Mill team that was very talented. They win their region, and they had Brooke Bass was one of their top scorers. They lose her, but Janiah Broome just comes back and has just been an incredible post player for Coach Stephanie Ramsey Dunn. I mean, she is a candidate to become Player of the Year, especially in this region. And I think that draw with Cartersville is going to be tough because this was a team that they faced in the Elite Eight last year, lost by 1. Remember, they had this game at Harris County, so they were hosting an Elite Eight game. They did lose to Cartersville. I think it gets tougher when you get to the Elite Eight because you talked about a Marist team that has that Harpering kid, which I believe that she's related to Matt Harpering. That's probably his daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Matt Harpering was a great shooter at Georgia Tech, and I'm sure, she's dropping 44 a night. I mean, that's a hard that's hard to try to defend that. But Harris County does have a tough draw.
Yeah, they do, and we're hoping that they got to take on Pace Academy. That's a region from Region 4, Team 4. So this is a team that just made the playoffs this year. I do think they handle business, and that will actually be tomorrow night, and we may actually be broadcasting that game. Rick Beach and Kudzu Sports will be presenting that on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. That is still up in the air, but we are looking like doing that. Pace Academy comes in out of Atlanta 12-11 on the season. So we cheering on those Harris County Lady Tigers as they try to make a deep run into the playoffs. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, hopefully we can get Jack Patterson on here in just a little bit as we'll talk about the Alabama side of the playoffs. Plus, we still got to talk GIAA as we'll pull up their rankings and tell you, or pull up their brackets and tell you who has the best path moving forward to win a state championship. It's Thrift, it's Richard on the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show.
You're watching right now the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show that is presented by Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. Get ready to smile. We'll be right back after this.
My name is Quinteria Perry, and this is my CVCC story. I've graduated from CVCC with my associates in medical assistant, and I received my certification from CVCC. The training that I got from CVC and being prepared to come and do clinicals helped tremendously. I started looking at scholarships, and the Ambassador Scholarship was interesting to me because you did events to earn your scholarship and you meet people. My favorite part about my job is meeting patients every day. They will crack me up every day. They make my day better. I would recommend CVCC to anyone that asks because of the scholarships, the teachers, the small stuff that you can't get at a university. They actually take the time out for each student.
Are you looking for a great deal on a powerful new Chevrolet or GMC full-size truck? Check them out. Chevy Silverado and GMC Sierras side by side at Glenn Smith in Opelika, Alabama. Take your choice of brand new 2024 Chevrolet and GMC 1500 trucks, discounted up to $15,000 off, or 0% financing, plus no payments till springtime. Here at Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC in Opelika, get ready to smile.
Welcome to the Campus Academy Private School, where every student is celebrated for their individuality. With personalized curriculum, students unlock their potential, growing into confident learners. At the Campus Academy, we give teachers the freedom to create dynamic classrooms where every student's voice is heard. Discover the difference. Enroll your child today and watch them thrive.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show through Barringer and Richard Holdridge. All right, let's talk about the GIAA bracket, Richard, and go ahead and bring it up as we'll talk about the Vikings and Lady Vikings who made it, and then the Calvary Knights and Brookstone Cougars on the boys' side. For the girls, Pacelli is the only team locally that will be able to make it. Richard? As he is trying. Richard, can you hear me? You're trying to find it.
It's
loading up. Okay. Whenever it loads up, I will tell you, looking at what happened with Pacelli this past weekend, let's talk about that tournament. The Vikings dominated Brookstone from start to finish. They dominated Westfield, who they played in the semifinals. Congratulations. That is now 37 games in a row, 25-0, and there is such a big gap with Coach Calvin Thomas's team. Man, what a performance from them. And they did a great job. The Lady Vikings dominated as well. Michaela Hosley was fantastic, and they have now won 27 straight GIAA games, Richard. The Lady Vikings and Bryant Thomas's team has not lost a game in the GIAA in over 3 years, Richard. 3 seasons, okay? They have not lost one. And now, all of a sudden, when you look at this Pacelli team, as they are going to be taken on as a 3 seed, how, as a team that is the defending champion, who has not lost a team to a team in their league in a long, long time, how the heck are they number 3? How does that make sense, Richard?
I don't get it. You're the defending GIAA champions. Like you mentioned, you haven't lost a GIAA game in 2 years. Yes, you got an Athens Christian team that went to the Final Four in the GHSA Class 1A Division 1. I get it. They're having a fantastic year. They're ranked number 1. Okay. And then Stratford Academy. Look, I know they're in a tough region with Lakeview. You got First Presbyterian Day, Mount DeSales, Tatnall. You got some tough opponents in their region. Yeah, they have a pretty good record, 22-2. But who have they played? Have they played anybody outside the GIAA?
No.
Have they played any of the Macon schools that are public schools? Have they played Southwest? Have they played Northeast? Have they played like a Peach County? Like anybody in their geographical area that they're like scheduling? Probably not. I think there's probably scheduling GIAA schools. This Pacelli team beat a 2A school in Hardaway that is one of the favorites to win the championship in 2A. They went toe-to-toe with a 7A school in Central, and they took on a Harris County team. They got some pretty quality wins as well, and I think that they beat a Taylor County team that's probably going to win a championship. So it doesn't make any sense. I can't make sense of it.
No, I can't make sense of it either. And I'm just it doesn't make. It's really disrespectful, to be frank with you.
It is, but it's not going to matter because here's the thing. And one thing, somebody commented on this playoff bracket for the GIAA, it's exactly the same format as the college football playoff. The top 4 seeds have to go to a neutral site. They don't get to host a home game. It's the 5 through the 12 that gets to host the home game. Pacelli's going to be sitting there waiting for the winner of the Keens Academy and Tatnall. It's probably going to be the Keens Academy. They'll play 6 o'clock Friday night, and that is going to be in Macon. So they get a neutral game, but if they can get to the Final Four, it doesn't matter if they're the 1 seed or the 4 seed or the 2 seed. It's going to be at Columbus State. It's going to be a huge home court advantage for Pacelli.
No doubt about it, and can't wait to see how this plays out. And if you look at the bracket right now, I think they avoid Athens Christian, who they're probably going to play in the championship game. They're going to take down Stratford. I don't think Kings Academy or Tatnall is going to offer much opposition for them. And I will tell you, they don't get to host a playoff game. So you see the top 4 seeds for each classification get a bye until they play in the quarterfinals. All quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals are held at a neutral location. They'll be in Macon for the quarterfinals. The semifinals and finals will be at Columbus State University, but I don't see them having any problem with anyone until that state championship game when they take on Athens Christian. For the boys, though, St. Anne Pacelli, same thing. I don't feel like they have any opposition until they probably play Tatnall in the semifinals. But then again, I think Athens Christian is the best opportunity. I know Athens number 3 right now. I don't know how. Cristo Rey lost to Pacelli by 50 early in the year. From what I saw from that Cristo Rey team, they have zero chance of beating St. Anne Pacelli. I will go on record right now and saying that I will eat crow if they end up losing that game. No chance. So the only chance is Athens Christian. Tatnall Square is good, and Stratford, that semifinal game, if Cristo Rey were to make it to the state championship, that semifinal could be a tougher test for St. Anne Pacelli than the championship. I just don't know how Cristo Rey is number 2. That's my kind of mind blowing too. But in terms of size, the only team that has the size to keep up with Pacelli would be Athens Christians. I would think it'd be Athens Christian Pacelli for girls and boys state championship. So that's what I'm going to lean towards. And for Calvary Christian and Brookstone, they both on the road in the first round. So Tallulah Falls and Kings Academy both host Calvary and Brookstone. I think Brookstone takes care of Tallulah Falls because they think they played in a tougher region with Pacelli. And we're going to get Pacelli Brookstone part 4. And I think Calvary Christian takes down Kings Academy if they play their best ball. Now, Athens is a whole different animal. But if Calvary Christian and Coach Jonathan Gordon, who've had to overcome injury after injury, right now they're out without Shaudell Irvin and Liam Hocutt. If they're able to get a playoff win after they already got 15 wins, they will have 14. If they get a playoff win, that'll be 15 on the season. That's 5 better than last year. That's a playoff win and make it to the quarterfinals. He's got his head held high. But the fact they even made the playoffs with everything they had to overcome, and Brookstone, same thing, without Chapman Dykes, and they're a 9 seed. If they win a game 2, I think these are great seasons for both those guys that are building for the future.
I do want to say something about the growth of the GIAA. It's going to be a little bit tougher for these teams to make the playoffs. We saw on the girls' side that a Brookstone and a Calvary was right on the cusp of making the playoffs. They finished 13th and 14th, respectively. When you get these gap schools like the Kings Academy, Rock Springs, GHSA schools like Athens Christian and Tallulah Falls coming to the GIAA, you have more competitive teams, and so the path is going to be harder. So it's just a great thing, a great accomplishment for Brookstone and Calvary to make the playoffs, and we wish them the best of luck. We're hoping for upsets, and if they can pull off the upset, we'll see them in Macon in the quarterfinals, and who knows? I mean, they can end up getting a couple of upsets and could possibly. I'm actually looking at the bracket here. I'm trying to see if Brookstone or Calvary Christian were to win, when they would have to face Pacelli. And it looks like
Brookstone would have to face Pacelli in the quarterfinals. Calvary would not face them till the championship game if they are able to. So Calvary got the better bracket to get out, avoid Pacelli if they're able to play them in the state championship. But they got to take on a good Kings Academy team and Athens Christians. If they do that, they take on Cristo Rey, and they'll be at home at Columbus State. So who knows how that could an upset could happen. All right, so I will tell everyone we're going to try to get some playoff games. Now, we're not going to get the first round. We will not be there tomorrow for any of the first round games, unfortunately. We will try to get later rounds. I'm making a PSA. We will not be able to get any of the playoff games right now. We're not going to get the first round, but we will try to get later rounds. So that means if we have a Shaw Columbus game on Saturday, Spencer Shaw game on Saturday, we may be inclined to do that. We may be also be inclined, definitely going to do Carver in the Elite Eight and Hardaway in the Elite Eight. We will definitely try to make both those games happen. But right now, because it restrictions, it also costs money. We have to pay the GHSA to be able to do this. We're going to pick and choose our spots because it does cost a lot of money to do that. Plus, we got to have money to my guys to get there and pay them to broadcast these games. It takes a lot of time and effort. So we're going to pick and choose our spots. So we'll be doing later rounds, and we may potentially be doing some quarterfinals depending on what happens with Brookstone and Calvary in those first rounds. So good luck to them. They'll be playing on Wednesday. And good luck to all the teams that are going to be competing. We'll be cheering you on And the final one is Alabama. You don't have to throw the bracket up, Richard. We can just talk about it. It's Central Auburn in both boys and girls. We'll start with the girls' coach, Regetta Williams' team. They've lost 3 times to this Auburn team. Auburn's really good. They're region champs from back-to-back years. But it's hard to beat a team twice, let alone 3 times, let alone the 4th. I think Jabria Lindsay has her best game, and I think the Central Lady Red Devils make the Final Four because of Jabria Lindsay. And for the boys, I don't think Auburn has what it takes. Right now, Central's as a man on a mission. The problem is they're going to be taking on the team that's probably going to be their biggest threat for a state championship in the Final Four against an undefeated Hoover team. But I don't see any problems with Central. I think it'll be a rock fight, but I think unless they are just shooting bad, they should beat Auburn. I do think Central Lady Red Devils do upset the Lady Tigers, and both teams make it to the Final Four is what I'm thinking, Richard. What about you?
100% agree with that statement you just said, Thrift, about the Central Lady Red Devils and Red Devils. It's because they have players with experience that can get the job done. I don't think there's anybody in the state of Alabama playing as good as Jabria Lindsay. She is the best basketball player in the state of Alabama, and she is getting her teammates involved. You're seeing a Danica Todd, a Garrett Griggs, get some opportunities. I think that they take down Auburn. This Auburn team is tough. Brooke Holloman is another great basketball player that they're going to have to deal with. As far as the Central Red Devils, but that starting 5 of Jacoby Hill, Bryce Dawson, Jaden Ford, Joe Jones, and then Des Williams. It's incredible what Coach Burkett has. This is a championship caliber team that if they do face a Hoover in the championship, they'll be ready for them.
Yeah, I think so too, Richard. So we'll see. We'll be cheering them on, all these teams, and I think we'll see what happens. By the way, we got a live show from Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 12 p.m. Central Time from the Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC showroom. Cannot wait for that. We're going to have some special guests on, including maybe getting Levi Dunn, who is a product from this area that's now head coach of Heritage, and Will Weldon, the new coach of the Hardaway Hawks. Looking forward to having both those guys on and maybe a few other guests for our special show live from Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. Richard, I know you can't wait. I can't wait either. I'm going to be excited about it. That is coming up this Wednesday on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. So can't wait for that. For our week this week, after having all basketball last week, Richard, great job today. Pacelli takes down Shaw. We had our second baseball game of the season. Third, excuse me. Yep, because Rick did one on Saturday. So 2 Cares County, and then we had tonight Pacelli and Shaw. We had CVCC basketball. The women's won. Good job by them. Tomorrow we got 2 soccer matches and 2 baseball matches. On Wednesday, we got the Georgia Alabama Sports Live show. That should be a great amount of fun. And then, of course, inside the GIAA. Thursday, we got soccer at Glenwood, baseball at Pacelli, and then Brookstone Columbus baseball. And then on Friday, we got a huge one. Glenwood taking on Central. Everyone has been waiting for this moment. It is one of the biggest baseball games of my lifetime, and we're going to be there for it. It is going to be a lot of hostile environment, a lot of trash talking. It's 2 of the best baseball programs in the entire state. Glenwood came in number 1 preseason in 3A. Central came in top 3 in 7A. Something's got to give. We're going to get that on Friday. And then Saturday, we'll see how the basketball schedule goes. That is up in the air, but we got a lot of baseball coming up this week on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. I know you're excited about it, Richard.
Yeah, excited about it. Also Friday, Pacelli is going to take on the winner of the Kings Academy Tatnall. That's going to be in Macon at 6. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to call that game. But we also have the Pacelli boys. They're going to await the winner of that Brookstone-Tallulah Falls game on Saturday. It's always a tradition. Those quarterfinal games of the GIAA, they've always been in Macon. The 3 locations, Tatnall Square, Stratford, and First Presbyterian Day. We've been to all 3 of them. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree with you, Richard. And by the way, We got him on right now,
We got
and
him.
I knew it. I knew we were going to
Yes.
get him. I was about to say, hey, maybe we should get Jack on because I know he's had a long day. I'm going to go ahead and bring him on right now. He is the man, the myth, the legend. It is WRBL's sports director, JP, in the building. What up, JP?
Checks in the mail for that intro, Thrift.
Yeah, thank you, brother. You know I love you, man. All right, so we had Cal Sandy on to kind of break down the 2A and stuff. We and Richard just spent a lot of time breaking down the brackets for the GIAA. We talked about Alabama, but I think I want to start there first with Central, Lady Red Devils, and Red Devils. You were there in the Acadome last week with both them getting wins heading into the Elite Eight as they take on a very familiar foe. How do you feel out it's going to play out? I got Central and Central. I got both of them winning. How do you think it's going to play out? Set the stage for us for that Elite Eight game coming up this week.
Well, I spoke with all four coaches after their wins. The two coaches from Central, the two coaches from Auburn. Of course, they're going to meet up against each other coming up on Wednesday morning in the Acadome, which, by the way, greatest arena name I've ever heard of, the Acadome.
Yes.
But all things considered, all four coaches had one thing in common when they talked about it's hard to beat a team 4 times in one season, okay? That's the task that the Auburn girls and the Central boys have in front of them. And, you know, it's one of those cases where you've played each other so much, it's hard to throw something new at them, especially at this point of the season. You're good at what you're good at. That's why you've made it to the Elite Eight. So honestly, it's really just up in the air to me. You know, obviously you like to think, okay, you know, the favorites are here for a reason, but there's something about games, you know, once you get to this point of the season where, you know, anything can change. You know, I was up in Montgomery today covering Lafayette in the Elite Eight, and they were down by 26 against the number 3 team in the state, and they ended up coming back and making a game of it. They weren't able to pull it off, but, you know, they were going against a team that only lost one time this year against a team of players that are justifiably younger than most teams in the Elite Eight. So to even see them make a game of it late just goes to show that, you know, it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what your record is, it doesn't matter what you've done throughout the season. Like, once you get here, man, it's really just about the here and the now. And there's individual things within games that honestly could change how a season could go.
Jack, I do want to mention some of those other teams that we cover outside of the Columbus area that you guys at WRBL cover that have made history. You got a Chaco team that's going to be hosting a playoff game against Bowdoin, the Chaco boys. The Central Tomballton boys making the playoffs for the first time in 7 years. You got the Marion County girls making the playoffs. Of course, Manchester's always good. You got Troup County and LaGrange on the boys' side making the playoffs. Let's talk about some of these teams. I know we put all of our focus on the Muskogee County schools in Harris County, but just talk about like the teams outside of the Columbus area that you guys cover that have really intrigued you.
I'll be honest, Richard. You know, when I do my research, like I've mentioned on the various shows that we're on, that, you know, I do research to keep up with teams because you can't always be at the game. So you do your best to keep up with them. So when it comes to this time of year, you're able to say, okay, this is a team that we need to look out for. There's 2 teams that have made that list, 1 boys, 1 girls, and they're from the same school. It's Randolph Clay. Both made the playoffs. Both were region champions. And honestly, I feel like they might actually be somebody that we really, really, really have to watch as we go deeper into the Georgia playoffs, because they, by all accounts, they look like they are loaded this year.
Yeah, I know they are, man, and I'm excited about it, JP. Let's move on. Let's talk about some of the teams up close. It's Carver and it's Hardaway's to lose. Now, if you look at Hardaway, they're not the number 1 ranked team. They got Josie ahead of them. What was the number 1 ranked team, Richard?
Murray County.
Murray County. Yeah, Murray County.
That has to play a 4-22 Salem.
Yeah, see, listen, that's neither here nor there. We got the spiel on how they go down the rankings. I just want to say this. I honestly like, Jack, the bracket that Hardaway's in better than them being the 2 seed with this got Thompson in it. That's got a ton of a hard group. For Carver, I don't care what region they were in, they were going to be fine. They're the prohibitive favorite. Do you think those two teams are going to be cutting down the nets this year, and the Lady Hawks and the Tigers?
I think the way you said it is perfectly the way you have to think about it. Is theirs to lose. But, just like I mentioned in Alabama, these Georgia games, it's the same deal. Like, it's hard to win these games in the playoffs. And I mean, I know the whole Salem controversy, whether they should be in or out or whatever, but not every team in this playoff bracket is 4-22. Okay. And with that being said, you have to bring your A game every game. And that's what you have to do for 5 games in order to bring the title home. And so, especially in Class 2A, and Class 2A has some sneaky tough teams on both the boys and girls side. So I won't outright say it because the playoffs are so unpredictable, but I will say that they hold their destiny in their hands.
Go ahead, Rich.
Well spoken, Jack. I'm telling you, I'm excited that we get to cover high school basketball in this area because with this reclassification, we witnessed Carver in football dominate in 2A. I think that the Carver boys is going to be on the same path. We could end up seeing history. Jack, you've been in the city obviously since your whole life. Have we ever had a football champion and a basketball champion? Not middle school because Aaron Cohn just did it, but we ever had a high school that won a football championship and a basketball championship in the same calendar year?
Not to my knowledge. Now maybe it could have happened before my time, but at least while I've been paying attention, which dates back to my days at Shaw, that has not happened. Carver came close one year.
Yeah, 2007-08, they made it.
Yeah.
They won it with Deron Furr and them, Jarvis Jones in 07 with Del McGee, and then they made it to the state championship and lost in basketball that year.
Yes, that's the year that I was thinking of. That was my sophomore year at Shaw. And they've come close to this before. And I mean, it's not out the realm of possibility that they could do it again. That team is loaded. Okay. But Coach Allen will tell you straight up that, it does, like I said, it doesn't matter. You've got to be able to be at your best because, how many times we see in March Madness a team that has no business, you think has no business even being in the tournament.
Right.
And they mess around and beat a 2 seed or even a 1 seed. So you can't take anybody for granted. You can't underestimate anybody. So, like I said, this Carver team is loaded. They're really good. They might be historically good. But at the end of the day, you've got to be able to handle your business on the court. And, same goes for Hardaway. Same goes for all these teams that we're talking about. The Chattahoochee Valley area has got a lot of loaded teams in the basketball brackets this year, both in the GHSA and the GIAA. But you got to be able to handle your business on the court.
Jack, the River Dragons. I did want to talk about them and then the Columbus State before we let you out of here because, you got a busy week just like us with this February frenzy. River Dragons having a tough time. And we say this, it seems like every time we have people on. Can you update us on what's going on with the River Dragons? And again, do you think it's starting to become concerning with the effort that is being put out there right now?
I don't think it's concerning, Thrift. I honestly think they're just in a really tough division. That division's loaded. Okay, you've got Carolina, which you need no introduction when it comes to what the Dragons and the Thunderbirds have done to each other since the inception of the team. Okay, but then you've got Baton Rouge that's really good this year. You've got Athens who's come out the gates, firing on all cylinders. Okay, so it went from just Carolina and Columbus battling each other to now you've got 4 really good teams in this division. So, and I know people are freaking out and, screaming the sky's falling, but it's not the end of the world. Okay. Just to be honest, the River Dragons have played less tougher teams over the last few years. And now there's parity in the division. Okay. And I know people aren't used to the Dragons losing, and stuff like that, but there's really good teams in the FPHL right now. So are the River Dragons, okay? The sky's not falling. The world's not ending, okay? I still have plenty of faith in Boom Boom. I have plenty of faith in J-Mac as the captain. I have plenty of faith in the guys they brought in to help fortify this team. It's not easy to win in the Fed, okay? It's not, all right? When you have so many moving parts throughout the season, it's not easy to win in the Fed. okay? To be as successful as the River Dragons had is a testament to what they've done, okay? And they'll still be able to continue to do it, but you got to be able to pump the brakes, okay? You got to be able to pump the brakes. I feel like we have the same conversation with the Dragons that we've had with the Braves, okay? You got to be able to pump the brakes. It's not the end of the world. This team's still good. They're still going to be a playoff team. They're still going to be a team that you don't want to play. You do not want to come to Columbus in the playoffs, okay? So, once again, like I said, pump the brakes. The sky's not falling. The world's not ending. The River Dragons are fine. They're just in a tough division, okay? You just like in the SEC, you know, it's tough, okay? And you beat up on each other, and that's what's happening this year. That everybody in that division is beating up on each other, okay? The River Dragons are beating every team that's above them in the standings, okay? But guess what? They've been beaten by teams below them in the standings too. Mm-hmm. Once again, it's a really good division. So, you know, don't freak out unless you know what you're talking about, okay? And just to be honest, like, there's nothing to really freak out about. Yeah, you want the team to win. I want the team to win too. But once again, it's a tough division, but they'll be fine.
Jack, Columbus State men and women's teams had a great week. They had 3 games on the road, all 3 wins. Right now, Columbus State men's team controls their own destiny in the Peach Belt Conference. They stand at 12-2 in the conference, 21-3 overall. I know Augusta beat them twice, but if they keep winning, they're going to win the Peach Belt. They're going to host the Peach Belt Conference Tournament, which is going to be huge for the city. It's going to bring all these schools from the state of Georgia into the Lumpkin Center. And they, you know, what Coach Moore is doing with this Columbus State team, I think that they can make a deep run, win a Peach Belt, get to the NCAA playoffs. But also, Coach Hauser's team is continuing to win, and they're 11-3 overall in the Peach Belt. They are a game behind North Georgia. Just talk about with the success of Coach Moore and Coach Hauser for Columbus State, and have we ever seen a run like this where both the Cougars and the Lady Cougars have been competing for a Peach Belt title?
It's been a while since we've seen it, but honestly, this is the culmination of what both of those coaches have been trying to do over the last few years. And let's be real about it, okay? That, you know, they've been trying to do this for the last few years, but it's got just that much harder with the implementation of the transfer portal and NIL and all that, and, you know, players moving every year, okay? So it went from, okay, you know, normally you have teams, players that will make the move up and up and up and up, but now it's like that, okay? So it's a bigger testament to what both of those coaches have been doing over the last few years, okay? And listen, they've taken their lumps along the way. I mean, you think about the girls being in the Peach Belt Championship game last year, losing in overtime. The guys have had a couple of bumps in the road too. So, like I said, this is just a testament to how hard both of those coaches have worked, and by translation, how hard those players have worked too, okay? Like, both of these teams are really good. I think both of these teams can get in the NCAA tournament even if they don't win the Peach Belt tournament. That's how good they've been this year. So I really do think that this is just, you know, an opportunity to put the spotlight on both of the coaches and the players and the, you know, the staffs for all the hard work they put in, because it's definitely showing at this point.
Final question, Jack, before we let you out of here, and I want to talk about this, was the Auburn Tigers had a statement win, probably the best win out of anybody in the country, going into Alabama, the number 2 ranked team in the country, and to win and literally have the lead from start to finish, wire to wire. This team had 6 guys with double figures. That's why I talk about how deep they are. And then they had 2 guys foul out, and it didn't matter. Cardwell fouled out, Baker Mazar fouled out, and they were fine. This is the best team in the country. I don't think there's any debate on it anymore. And I honestly think Broome, unless he just goes and either gets injured, I'm knocking on wood, or just plays the worst basketball we've ever seen from a big man, he's got to be the favorite. I understand Cooper's had a great season. Duke's been good. But what Auburn's done is, one, historic. They're in a historic conference. They're the number 1 team there, and he's a double-double machine. He should be the runaway favorite, too. I was just so impressed from what I saw from Auburn. Bruce Pearl's team looks every bit a team that could win a national championship, and he did it not with freshmen, but with veteran leaders, guys that have been playing college basketball for 3 or 4 years now, and hence why they're so good, in my opinion.
this is once again, we talked about how the CSU journey has been the culmination. This is kind of the culmination of what Bruce Speil has been trying to build at Auburn too. We've seen him trying to do this even, dating back prior to that 2019 Final Four run. He's trying to build a team with chemistry. He's not looking for the flashy guys. He's not looking for he does pick up some now. Taha Pettifer is a perfect example of freshman that was highly touted coming in and, knocking everybody's socks off. But, he's getting the guys who want to win. Okay. You pick up a guy like Janai Broom coming from Morehead State. You pick up guys like Chaney Johnson. You pick up guys like Denver Jones. These are not guys that Bruce Pearl recruited out of high school. These are guys he recruited out of the transfer portal. Okay. That weren't household names, but building them and putting them in this system, they have become household names. Okay. And that's a testament to what Bruce has done at Auburn. Okay. And then you pair them up with people like Dylan Cardwell and Chris Moore, the lifetime Auburn guys who have been here from the jump. Like I said, it just works. It really just works. And, the proof is, you look at the record, okay? Auburn's 23-2 now, and their 2 losses are to the teams that are number 2 and number 3 in the country.
Exactly.
Okay? Like, it just really goes to show the kind of performance that they've been putting on day in and day out, game in and game out. And honestly, once again, when we get down to the nitty gritty, I'm hesitant to just outright say this team is going to win, a championship. Okay. This team should win a championship. Okay. I will say that this team should win a championship. One thing I've heard Mike G from the War Report say that, it's really Final Four or bust with this team. And I agree. But at the same time, anything's freaking possible in March. We've seen it time and time again. And we've seen, for as good as Auburn's been this year, we see them had, a little hiccup here and there. Obviously the Florida game had a hiccup, okay? The Duke game as well. Even the Tennessee game. The Tennessee game was a rock fight, okay, that Auburn just so happened to come out on the other side of. But, they scored 53 points. I want to say that's their season low in that game. So, like I said, and, they still have a tough slate in the SEC still to come. Arkansas is coming into the jungle on Wednesday night, and Calipari is no easy coach to beat. I don't care if he's at Kentucky or Arkansas. So,
exactly.
So like I said, I just don't want to get too far ahead of myself because I know how talented this conference is, and I know how good that this Auburn team is. I've seen it with my own two eyes. I think they should be a national champion, but like I said, it's far from academic.
The fan was coming out of me in there, Jack. We appreciate you, man, as always. Tell everybody what you got on the slate this week, where they could find you. And obviously, I'll be seeing you in a gym near me or maybe even a baseball field because Glenwood Central play on Friday. I don't know if you know that. It's probably one of the biggest baseball games in the area we've had in a long time because it's the first time those two programs have ever faced off in their history.
Oh, man, I'm just going to tell you, this week is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, all right? I was in Montgomery today. I'll be in Montgomery on Wednesday for Auburn Central, both of those games. I've got one of my right-hand men at WRBL, Kevin Roble. He's heading down to Montgomery for the Lee Scott game tomorrow in the Elite Eight. And then we'll be covering the Georgia playoffs as well as they get underway. I've just had an opportunity to look at the schedule, so I've got to figure out, scheduling-wise, what games we're going to cover this week. But we're going to be all over the place. We're going to be all over the place. It's just that time of year. I call it the February frenzy for a reason. And it is living up to the hype and then some. We've got a lot of great teams on both sides of the river that have championship aspirations that will be realized. It's just a matter of who's going to get there. We're guaranteed 2 teams in the AHSAA Final Four in Class 7A between the Central and Auburn teams. We might have a third in Lee Scott. We already have an AISA champion in the Springwood girls. And, like I said, the GHSA is loaded even with the teams that we don't get to cover on a regular basis. The Randolph Clays, the Taylor counties, the Troup counties, the Manchesters, the LaGranges. They all have great teams this year. So we're going to be all over the place. So I guess the best way to keep up with me is to watch us on TV at 6 and 11. and you'll see where in the world the News 3 sports team has been, because it's a little bit of everywhere, to be honest.
Jack, thank you so much. Get you some rest, man, and I will talk to you real soon. And I hope that ankle's healing up after your Rafael Nadal attempt just a week ago.
Once again, realize your age. It's not 2010 anymore. I'm fine. He's good. And I guess I'll see you in about 9 hours?
Yeah, forgot you.
10 hours?
You'll be up on the Sports Vision Morning Show, 7:50. Check in with Jack. Appreciate it, JP.
Appreciate you, fellas.
That is Jack Patterson of WRBL. Man, what a show. Thank you to JP.
Yes.
Thank you to Kyle Sandy. This was the ultimate high school basketball preview. We'll get a lot more with unsolicited hot take. We'll even have on some special guests and more from the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show, live from Glenn Smith Chevrolet GMC. Any other final thoughts, Richard, before we get out of here? And also good luck to all those teams that will be playing in the playoffs here the next couple of days.
Oh, great show, like always. It was really a very informative show. I'm glad that we were able to do it. And I just got so excited about the brackets when they came out yesterday. I think that we really took a deep dive into the brackets, and I think that it's going to be a fun and exciting basketball playoffs. I can't wait.
No doubt about it. Thank y'all so much for watching. We'll see you again bright and early tomorrow morning for the Sports Vision Morning Show from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. And also check out, we got a bunch of baseball, basketball, and softball. I mean, it's not softball, but soccer games tomorrow. We even got a baseball game from CVCC. And Richard, I'm turning 32 years old tomorrow too. So I'll be heading into the 32-year-old ranks. So when next time you see us on Georgia Alabama Sports Live, I'll be a new man. But thank y'all so much for watching. We'll see you next time on the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show.
Thank you for watching the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show presented by Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. You're ready to smile.